Okay, so imagine this. A service manager is frustrated with a salesperson in another department handing off a customer to his department in service. And that handoff process is a problem, and he vents to the general manager instead of addressing it head on. Sound familiar? That is what we call a workplace triangle, and it is draining your team's energy.
Welcome to It Doesn't Take a Genius.
Ramsey!
Marshall, so excited to talk about triangles with you today.
Oh, yeah, because, I hated geometry. Yeah, I hated geometry up until, like, halfway through the class, Mr. Evans, my geometry teacher, it's one of the few teachers I can remember, he explained how geometry related to playing pool.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And that every angle has an exact opposite, angle.
Yep.
I was like, oh, wait a minute, hold it, whoa. I can use this.
This has a practical application.
You're right, algebra. I didn't lose X. I don't want to find X. I don't know who X is, and I don't care. Right, that's why I took algebra twice in high school and once in college as remedial. So, but yeah, this has everybody can relate to this. So
Yep.
What is our
This is pretty practical as well, just like
what is our technical workplace definition of a triangle? So the triangle is a dynamic where two people who should or are interacting pull in a third person and to avoid accountability or direct conflict. And it's emotional outsourcing. Person A has a problem with person B, but instead of talking it out, they go to and they loop in person C
Yep.
for sympathy, advice, or some sort of intervention.
Yeah.
Right. We're gonna, as my mom would say, it's airing your dirty laundry.
Right.
Yeah, you're airing your dirty laundry to people who aren't involved with the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And often seen as just plain old gossip. But this is a little more complicated than just gossip, because what we're saying, and let's break it down step by step, right? There's some sort of trigger that happens, right? Mm-hmm. There's unresolved tension because of miscommunication between two departments or with a certain employee or on a big handoff. And often it's not just the emotional outburst, right? It's not just somebody looking for sympathy or advice. It's that intervention, right? It's not that it's not that I'm saying, oh, I'm feeling a lot of anxiety about this, let's go talk to a third person instead of addressing it directly. It might be, I ain't got time for this person. I'm going to have third party do this. And I bring that up specifically because sometimes that's why people hire coaches. You go handle this issue for me. We're the triangle, right? We're the third party that they've sometimes brought in.
Yeah, go find out what's wrong with Bob. He's not been himself
right,
lately.
Right. And this is if you feel like the line of work you're in is a little bit high pressure because of time, then you probably have this issue, right? It's high stress because time, we don't have any time. We don't have any time. And so a small issue gets turned into high drama because I either say third party, you do it, or I go talk to third party because I don't want to deal with this person in the moment.
Right. Well, and think about how funny that is. I don't have time to talk to the person I have the issue with.
Uh-huh.
But I do have plenty of time
Yep.
to go share it with somebody who may or may not be able to help.
Yep.
You're like, wait a minute. Yeah, this is so bad.
We can feel like we've taken action, right?
Yes.
But we haven't actually addressed the thing.
Oh yeah.
It's
yeah. It's so frightening. Yeah, we had a good conversation about it with somebody who may or may not be able to help.
Right.
Well, that's not going to fix it, or at least it's not going to fix it in an expedient manner.
It's not going to be fast. Yeah.
No.
But I mean, we see this all the time, don't we? Like, a department complains about another department, or a department talks, an employee talks to a peer or a manager in another department. There are just all sorts of opportunities for people to go other than to the source. And, what ends up happening is even in a broader workplace, by the way, this happens, right? We've worked with plenty of organizations that have an HR department. They'll triangulate in HR, and HR sometimes will end up doing the heavy lifting of that conversation instead of helping those two figure out their own resources to solve this problem for the long term instead of this specific dust-up incident. So, I don't know that we have time on a short little podcast like this to detail all of the downsides of what happens, but there's a bunch that happen because of this. Trust is gone, for one.
Right.
Like you said, problem solving. We're going to go slower instead of faster. We've looped into third person, so it's going to go slower. And we have certainly seen turnover be an issue because of organizations that triangulate. And often what they'll say, Mike, you and I have both seen this, where they say it was just too much drama. That was a workplace that had too much drama. And what they mean about that is we're talking about other people instead of talking to the people. And there is some Harvard data on this, right? More than half of employees are avoiding direct conflict by routing it to third parties. This happens in the workplace a lot. So,
oh yeah. Well, and
go ahead.
And don't think that managers are off the hook here. Don't think this is team member to team member.
Not at all.
Right. I was once involved with a Pentagon. Not the Pentagon, but a Pentagon. So I'm meeting with the general manager. Two managers come in, and those two managers are complaining to me and the general manager about a team member.
It's awesome.
Pentagon. I got 5 people, right? And so the two managers complain about the guy and talking about what he's not doing and, performance and stuff like that. And at some point, hey, I don't want to interrupt your conversation, but if any of you managers talk to the team member, have you shared anything that you've shared with us with him? No. And so our one of our favorite authors, Michael Bungay Stainer, he wrote The Coaching Habit. His term for this is my favorite. He calls it coaching the ghost. Right, where you and I are discussing this other person. We can't affect change. It's as if the other person is a ghost. They're not in the room. They're not part of the conversation. Nothing's going to change when you're coaching the ghost or when you have created a triangle.
That's exactly right. And so there are little clues that can give you an opportunity to see that you've got a triangle situation brewing. One is you're coaching somebody who's not in the room. That's a sign. Another is you just sort of have a detour in your discussions, right? You're having a team meeting, and the discussion just sort of ends up going into talking about people that aren't in the room instead of talking about the people in the room, or a department that's not in the room. And a final one, and this one is a little more personal, but if you're just starting to feel some anxiety, some nervous energy, so to speak, and that energy has its outlet when you go get on the phone with somebody else, or you go have that, you delegate solving this problem by looping in somebody else who's going to go talk to that employee, you might have entered the triangle, right? So, so these are all problems.
Oh yeah. When you think about it, you're right. All the negative effects of this, and the idea that it builds resentment, right? The other person could feel ganged up on, right. So, everybody's talking about this, and it's just me against the group, right? Yep. Stifles growth. There's no honest feedback. I can't develop. I can't change. I can't fix what I don't know about.
Right.
And so when you're not telling me these things, how am I going to grow? And, you get this culture of mistrust.
Yeah.
You,
It
you know,
grows to other people beyond the triangle for
oh
sure.
yeah, yeah, because there are no secrets in the workplace, right? Everybody
Right.
knows who's talking about what at some point, and then you get the chain reaction,
Yeah, this is my
right?
favorite part of the whole
Yeah.
thing.
So this triangle is discovered, and so the person who was being talked about in this triangle, what do? Immediately go create their own triangle.
Right.
They loop in somebody else. Now I've got person D,
Yep.
right? And they could loop in somebody. So now I've got E. So these
Right.
triangles start replicating all over the place, and nobody's talking to each other, right?
Yep.
There's no effective change that's going to happen because the people who need to change and the people who have the issue aren't communicating to each other. But I've got
Yeah.
triangles, right? Just it looks like a bag of Doritos
It,
when this thing
that's
gets going.
100%. And often I think this is, so let me give the con and then I'll give a little bit of a pro here. Oftentimes what you're seeing with the triangle is manager worried about employee and they triangulate somebody in. Well,
Right.
whoever they've triangulated, let's say it's the general manager and a frontline employee. They triangulate in the boss. You need to go work on that guy. There's an issue here. Okay,
Hmm.
that may actually be true,
Right.
right? That may actually be true. So the pro here is in the short term, maybe that's the conversation that needs to happen, but you need to close that triangle as fast as you can so that we're not chronically developing these triangles. But here's what often happens. Instead of closing the triangle, the person who is triangulated in, now they're feeling the pressure. Now they've got some anxiety about what's about to happen. They go triangulate with somebody else. So now it's general manager to a third party.
Hmm.
Hey, maybe in a best case scenario, it's I need to talk to my coach and come up with a game plan to go back to the GM and talk about what really needs to happen here and have that one-on-one conversation. But oftentimes it's a third party who can't do anything about it. Now we've just spread anxiety further into the organization. That
Hmm.
person's going to develop their triangle. I mean, it's just going to keep going. So all these triangles are actually connected, which is that ought to keep you up at night as the CEO.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah,
Well, the idea that sometimes it depends on your approach. So if I'm approaching the
right.
third person to get constructive feedback, and we get this a lot, where they'll say, "Hey, I need to have a difficult conversation with
Yep,
somebody. Can I talk to you about it and game plan?" We've even role played. All right,
absolutely.
we've game planned. What are you hoping to gain from this conversation? What part do you play in this? All right, we'll have this whole conversation. We may even practice. That's different, right? That's a proactive, solution based things where your
Right.
ultimate goal is to address directly the
It's
person.
preparing for the conversation.
Yeah, you're preparing for the difficult conversation. You're instead of hiding from it or deflecting from it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we could talk about a lot of examples where we've seen this happen where, triangles got in the way of accountability, right? And we sort of talked about this in the last episode about praise in public, coach in private, and how that's a little bit of a myth.
Hmm.
And so often, there are things you can specifically do, such as Mike, we've frankly made a lot of our living telling people about the respect-based performance coaching method, which is where, instead of me getting a third party involved who's going to train this guy who's not doing the gig the way he's supposed to be doing, I'm going to go talk to him directly and ask questions and figure out what's going on for them. So we could talk about those kinds of case studies. Let me speculate for a minute. I asked AI about this. I said, sort of give me a future focused example of how this is going to play out in our workforce going forward. And here's one of the thoughts. Remote work. Remote work. As it rises, the triangles are still there. They're just now typically in text form, right? They're a direct message, a private message. Maybe they're a phone call or a Zoom session, but they're probably in an email. They're in a Slack channel. There's something like that
Hmm.
happening. And
Well,
so I don't have a good answer to that. AI wants it to be an AI moderated check-in, that would prompt direct replies. I think that's probably hooey. I don't know that anybody is going to follow that advice. Maybe you disagree. But
Oh,
I think it just points out that this is not going to go away. It's just going to become more complicated.
oh, well, think about it. Now you have triangles forming during the issue. So
Yeah.
you have triangles forming in real time. I'm on a virtual call. There's five people on the virtual call. Yeah, somebody says something that I don't agree with, or I want to correct, but I don't. But I'm texting while I'm looking in the camera. I'm texting the third person, person C, going, "This is so dumb. They don't know what they're talking about. They're a poser, whatever." Right, and it's like, so the triangle forms
In real
during
time.
during the thing, right? During the disagreement, during the difficulty that's arose. So you're like, now, yeah, technology has allowed us to. Used to, you had to have a problem with somebody. You had to walk
Yep.
like down the hall. You had
Yep.
to walk to another cubicle to tell somebody about this problem you were having with Bob and how you can't work with him
So
anymore.
true.
Now I can do it. Yeah, I can do it in real time. It's
Yeah.
terrifying how fast
It's
this can happen.
it's terrifying. So let's talk about some solutions to this problem. Some strategies to break triangles, to prevent triangles, to collapse triangles. And I will say I need to put this up here, but Mary Beth O'Neill's book Executive Coaching with Backbone and Heart. This is where I learned about the triangle concept,
Mm-hmm.
and it's excellent. I don't know that it's a read for non-coaches, perhaps, because it's more from the perspective of somebody who's outside the system, entering the system. But let's just talk about a 3-step framework for how you can handle this. Just some practical tools. So the first step is just to pause and redirect. Right. So you're noticing, right? You got that triangle alert button going off on your internal computer, and you're noticing, uh-oh, we're talking about a third party. Uh-oh, I'm feeling anxiety about getting looped into this thing. And you can just say, hey, have you talked about this with them yet?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just guide him back to the source.
Well, sometimes at that point, I'll throw out the phrase, "Are we coaching the ghost?"
Yeah.
And most people haven't heard of that, right? So what's cool about that is it breaks
Boing.
their rant. Like,
Right.
what are you talking about? And then you say,
Right.
are we trying to coach the person who's not in the room? And then, yeah, have you talked to them? Have so sometimes I'll throw that out there just because it stops, right? Because sometimes they're pretty, they're emotionally engaged in what their complaint is about this other person. And you have to snap them out of it so that you can have a conversation about what would be the most productive thing to do right now.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. So that's an in the moment while it's happening tool. Another step in this process is just getting those direct habits to happen. So encouraging direct habits, person to person. You might need to do that by making it a part of your meetings to sort of give a little nugget on how to have a difficult conversation or how to do recognition the right way. I mean, there's a lot of different ways triangles might happen, but it tends to fall back on we're not doing our direct communication very well. So making that a part of your meetings to say, here's something that we all want to be working on. Here are some habits we're trying to form. And again, you and I have been making a living doing this for quite a while, helping people just directly talk to each other, right?
Well, and yeah, exactly. I've seen managers that have rules rules like, don't bring me a problem unless you can bring me a problem, but you also have to bring at least one idea to solve it, right?
Yeah.
Bring me a problem, but have thought of at least one solution. And I've also heard managers say, all right, so don't come to me complaining about somebody else until you've tried to address it with them directly.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
if you've done that, then and it's not working, then you come talk to me, right?
Yep.
And then I may do step one. I may redirect you back to that person, but yeah, don't come to me talking about somebody else unless you've tried to address it yourself first. And
Yep.
that's that. I'm fostering that habit of try to solve it yourself before you come to me.
So you'll notice our steps here. It's working with an individual, some training we might do with the team to deliver some, sort of maxims, some principles like you just discussed. And then sometimes it's a system-wide thing, some sort of safeguard, and that's our third step. This might be the always popular employee survey, right? It might be some quick little survey to just get an idea of how engaged people are, and where we see a deficit, there's a chance that there are some triangles in that area of the business, under that manager, in that department, whatever it is. So it's not something that everybody does on a regular basis, but it could definitely help identify where the triangles are at.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
So
yeah. You may
go ahead.
surface some. Yeah, you may surface some of those conversations that haven't been had, right? Because they show
That's
up
right.
as lack of performance, a process issue, things like that. And now we know, okay, these guys aren't talking to each other.
That's it. That's it. And so let's add another layer here. But I guess it's maybe two layers. But one is, just like in our last episode, we talked about this. The leader has to model the behavior too, right? So the leader has to, share about, hey, I got to fess up here. I accidentally created a triangle. I didn't go to you directly. I looped in somebody else. Or after a situation, is diffused, maybe even in a meeting, talking about what they had done and how they had to, apologize for not going directly to the person, etc. So there's that aspect. And then the flip side is brand new people, right? Not just the leader, but brand new people. Could you make this part of your onboarding, right? Could you do something in your orientation to say, hey, this is a behavior we expect. We preach this and practice this, that we go to the person when there's an issue. If you are feeling resistant to that, we'll be asking, if you're sensing any resistance to that, we'll be asking you periodically how things are going, and we want to hear from you, and we'd like people to hear directly from you. So those are some ideas that could be practically addressing the triangles if you've got them.
Oh yeah, no, and I love the idea of establishing this as a value, as an expectation, and maybe even providing a little bit of training on what that would look like.
Totally.
Using the stay curious, the coach approach, things like that. Because if you can either do it that way, or if the person is not good at these direct conversations, you'll hear about it. Yeah,
That's so true.
yeah. It just blew up. Right. I tried to talk to him.
right.
It went really poorly, and now the manager's looped in. So yeah. Don't assume everybody has the ability to do this. Right. We have this as an expectation. And some people will naturally be better at it than others, but it is a skill that can be taught.
100%. 100%. So just to wrap this up, the triangles are really thriving on avoidance. And so if there's some avoidance behavior, it's direct communication that's really going to collapse that triangle and get you back to the trust and momentum you're looking for. So spot them, break them, watch your team transform.
Exactly. So, yeah, the challenge would be, right now, there's a conversation that you've been putting off.
Yep.
Go have that conversation.
Go do it.
Yep. Go do it. Head on. Let us know in the comments how it goes. If you want to practice before you have it, reach out to Mark or myself, and we'll definitely help you walk through it. So
Just this week, I've been in a constant email dialogue about a person who's trying to collapse that triangle and go have that direct conversation. It's a beautiful thing when it finally happens. It's painful, sometimes painful, but only in the short term. Pay now or pay later.
Yep. Tough choices now, easy life later.
Yep.
Easy life now, tough outcomes.
Yep.
So definitely. All right. Speaking of somebody who's always direct with us, tells us how he feels about our podcast. Let's turn it over to our man, Mr. Wolf.
And there you have it. Another session of contemporaneous extemporizing from Mark and Mike. I know it's redundant, but consider who we're talking about. As always, feel free to share the ideas you heard here. No right to reserve, no permissions needed. Thanks. See you next time on It Doesn't Take a Genius.
That's good enough.